We're outrunning wolves in Megalopolis, and Hellboy's never letting go of my old ass. I'm Van Connor.
And I'm Adam Ball, and this is Off Screen, your 7-day guide to everything movies.
Boom. Groovy.
Hello and welcome back to my old ass. I mean, show. That took me by surprise. I won't lie. That did almost throw me at the start there.
I'm not that old. I'm 41. I'm not that
old. Welcome back to Off Screen. I tell you what, we have got so many good movies. Well, good movies on paper to look at today. Yeah, on paper, because of course we can never predict what Van is going to think of a movie, and we shall find out. We're going to look at Megalopolis. We're going to look at my old ass, not literally. We're going to look at Hellboy, the Crooked Man, The Outrun. I mean, the list is huge today, so let's dive straight in with the new Halle Berry one, which is Never Let Go. It's a horror thriller. I like a good horror thriller, Van. So what do you make of this?
I will say this, first of all. Did you like A Quiet Place, the first Quiet Place?
Oh, my God, yes.
Did you like Bird Box with Sandra Bullock and the Kids in the Woods?
Oh, I don't think I've seen it.
Because it's kind of about halfway between the two, like, conceptually. Good. So, this is a new movie from Alejandra Aya. Okay, Alexandra Aya or Alejandra Aya, who is the director who brought us the Hills Have Eyes remake. And most importantly, Piranha 3D. Tragically not Piranha 3DD, the sequel. But Piranha 3D, the movie that gave the world the gift that was Kelly Brook on cinema screens, playing a porn star, which is just cinema, hashtag cinema, as we say in honour of Scorsese. So, this stars Halle Berry alongside two young child actors. I will get to them in a minute. They play her sons, and they're under 10. I think they are maybe about 8 years old at most. Like, they're quite young. They are a family that are living in a cabin in the woods in like an undisclosed place somewhere in British Columbia. Right? So it's like the Canadian woods kind of thing. It is, as we are told by Berry herself, it is sometime after the apocalypse, after an evil force has made the human race turn on one another violently. And it does this by basically infecting you with rage and evil through a single touch. Now, somehow, Halle Berry's late father has worked out a way to basically bind them to their cabin. The sacred wood that their cabin is made of somehow protects them. And the only way that they can actually leave the cabin is by being tethered via a rope to the foundations of the cabin. Like, the rope goes all the way back to the cabin and into a trap door, and it's literally bound to the foundations of the cabin. Now, the lesson she tells the kids is never let go. Very simply. You're going to hear it in the clip. It gets said a lot in the film. Never let go. It's their version of Starship Troopers. Would you like to know more? You know what I mean? Service guarantee citizenship. A classic movie, a movie catchphrase or slogan. One of her two sons, who I believe is played by Percy Daggs IV, that's going to come up in a minute, starts to question whether or not all of this is even real. And simply by questioning this, he starts to put their situation and them entirely into absolutely mortal jeopardy that may prove to be the absolute end of them all. So have a listen. This is Halle Berry giving them yet another lecture on why they need to take all of this really seriously and remember the rules.
Evil can wear many, many skins. And the greatest trick of all is playing on you boys. And when enough time goes by, you gon' forget it's even there. You're gonna let your guard down. And it's gonna get you. One touch, without a robe on, is all it takes to possess one of us and get inside the house. Never let go.
I don't know if you agree with me at all on this, but I find for me, movies like this, and this movie, for example, on paper, the principle and the idea sounds brilliant. It sounds great. But at the same time, the caveat to that is ropes that are attached to the house, you can kind of almost see the things that are going to happen during the movie. Like someone's going to pull the rope and they're going to get pulled into something, or something's going to break or snap, and it's going to... So it kind of ruins it a little bit for me, already predicting that that's the kind of stuff that's going to happen.
And to be fair, I was on the same page as you going into this. Now, the film very quickly, when you it's worth noting, the film literally opens with quite a good jump scare. Like, it opens, like, first time, massive jump scare. Oh, okay, cool. And you know a film means business when, especially in this genre, a movie means business when those opening titles are running backwards. You know what I mean? Like, when they're coming down rather than up, the film means business. We all learned that lesson from David Fincher. You know what I mean? And like I say, this is going to be... This has a place reserved for it in what Case Allen and I used to refer to as the Matalan box set of tenuously connected movies. So you see this in the Matalan box set with A Quiet Place Part 1 and Bird Box. But there's a bit of Room. The movie Room with Brie Larson and Jacob Tremblay. You remember that one? Where the mum and her son confined to that? Yeah. And she did a very similar thing where in her case, it was from the start, we knew it was nonsense. They were told that the air outside was toxic or whatever. In her case, that was nonsense. Here, that's the mystery. And actually, I think the mystery works very, very well. And the resolution to it is definitive, but still leaves you with some questions, but not in a niggling, annoying way, but in a very, okay, I like that I get to think a bit about this afterwards. The performances are great. The tension mounts throughout, and those performances ratchet up with that tension. Now, Halle Berry goes quite impressively hard here. Like, she knows what she's got here. She knows the project that is before her. She knows that she's working for a director that is absolutely going to wring everything he can out of this. And it works. It goes really well. However, Halle Berry is outshone very quickly by her child co-stars. I'm just going to look up the name of one of them because I forget the one who isn't. Anthony B. Jenkins. You've got Anthony B. Jenkins as Samuel and Percy Daggs IV as Nolan. Now, Nolan is the one who starts to question everything. And they're both adorable kids anyway, but they also play very well off each other. They've got great performances, and the fact that you're seeing this kind of range out of under 10s, magnificent. I've got to be quick and wrap this up so we can get on to Outrun. I know Percy Daggs IV is the son of an actor that I know, whose work I know quite well. Percy Daggs III was the best friend in Veronica Mars for years. So I was like, I know that name, and then it turns out, oh no, it's his son. Okay, even better. I really like this. I think this has really solid suspense. I think it's shot really well. I think it uses its environment incredibly effectively. And I think, like I say, if you're a fan of A Quiet Place or Bird Box, particularly Bird Box, because the woodland setting and the mum and two children thing, that puts it very squarely in Bird Box territory. But I think it might be one of the best things Halle Berry's done in years. Like, genuinely. But keep an eye on Percy Daggs IV, because I really see he's got like Jacob Tremblay potential, where I think we could see about 5 solid years, like coming off the back of this, in which he's a force to be reckoned with amongst child actors, genuinely.
Well, you can see Never Let Go in cinemas from today. Let's move swiftly on to The Outrun, starring one of the stars, Saoirse Ronan. I'm a big fan, actually, and have been since Lovely Bones. And this is a drama, which I think she does quite well, actually.
Oh, I mean, kind of all Saoirse Ronan does. I mean, she's done action, obviously, because Hannah exists, and Lady Bird had a bit of comedy to it, but she is the drama queen. I mean, in the best possible use of that name, obviously. So this is written and directed by author, I'm going to try and pronounce this exactly right, Nora Fingscheit, I think is her name. That's the name. I'm just reading it out, okay? Anyway, so this is about a young woman named Rona, who has become a bit of a party girl in London. She's lived in London, become a bit of a party girl, has developed a substance abuse problem, particularly alcohol, and has gone into rehab and detoxed after this has nearly cost her life, and has returned home to the Orkney Islands to spend time with her family, to just get away effectively, and sort of start to rebuild her life. But of course, this is never as easy as it sounds. It's about having to convince her friends to sort of respect this. It's about who she is without this vice, this crutch in her life. And it is about the law of the temptation to, basically fall back off that wagon. Have a listen. This is The Outrun.
I'm sorry.
I can't hear you say that again. I wish you were a completely different person.
The urge to drink can come out of nowhere. You think you're doing well. Suddenly you want nothing more than a drink.
How does London compare to Parby?
A bit more going on, I guess.
So how long do you think you'll stay here for?
I have a life that I have to get back to.
How's Mum?
She offered to put me into her prayers.
She does the accent well, doesn't she?
She's every accent well. She's Saoirse Ronan. Incidentally, she's going to come up in another film, in discussion of another film later on, in a very different context, and she's not even actually on screen for it. It's fascinating and wonderfully done. But she's terrific here. I think it uses the location really well, in rather the same way that Never Let Go used its Canadian woodland setting quite effectively to amplify its story. You very much get that here with the use of the Orkney Islands. Nora Finchite knows exactly how to utilise that. There's a quite captivating supporting turn from Stephen Delane as well, and Papa Isidou from the Alex Garland film Men is the co-star / love interest as well. But of course, it is mostly all about Saoirse Ronan. And the problem is, I think outside of that, you're not really going to take much away from this. There are better addiction dramas out there, and this is not in the upper echelon of those. I mean, this, for my money, this isn't even in the same league as the forgotten James Wood addiction drama, The Boost, which notably co-starred Sean Young way back in the day, and is one of the tentpole addiction dramas sort of its time. This doesn't quite have that same effectiveness, but it does have a sterling performance from Saoirse Ronan. However, the fact that Saoirse Ronan is out of bed and showing up to set kind of guarantees you that you're going to get a sterling performance anyway. So you kind of know that going in. But I will say that it's one for the Saoirse Ronan fans, definitely. She never fails to deliver, ever. However, I think the lack here is really in, I think, much of an emotional anchor and much investment in this story outside of the Saoirse Ronan. So it's a bit too boilerplate for my liking.
Well, The Outrun is in cinemas from today, so you can go and see it if you like. Coming up next, then, we are going to look at the new Clooney and Pitt film called Wolves. We'll see what Van thought to that next, so stay there. Hello and welcome back to Off Screen. We have got more movies to look at. Still to come, Hellboy, the Crooked Man even, not crooked. My Old Ass, Megalopolis, and I'm never going to get bored of saying that. And let's now look at Wolves. So the interesting thing about this that caught my eye, Van, is obviously two things. It's a Clooney and Pitt movie. Yep. I'm undecided whether I'm a bit bored of the pair of them being in the same movie at the same time. Because I just feel like they're the same characters all the time. And that gets to me a little bit. And secondly, it says here on IMDb, the stars are Amy Ryan, Austin Abrams, and George Clooney. Pitt's just pushed out the edge.
I think they're doing it alphabetical order, which is worth noting. Wolves does not have an expansive cast list. I think there are only something like, if you go on IMDb, I'm sure there's only like 6 names actually credited for it. And one of them is Frances McDormand, who never actually appears on screen. She just kind of does a voice cameo. She's kind of the boss. You're going to hear her in the clip, incidentally, in a moment. Now, going to the... I will sort of go further into it, but the idea that Clooney and Pitt only really ever play themselves kind of is the gag here. Like, that's the gag of this. Now, the clip kind of explains most of what I'm about to say for you, so forgive me if this is a bit repetitive, but the title, Wolves, and it is Wolf S. So WOLF S. It's not wolves, it's Wolf S, and that's deliberate. The idea is that both characters are a lone wolf type. but they are forced to work together. So the lone wolf becomes the lone wolves. It's kind of the gag from Airheads. How do you pluralize the Lone Ranger? There's three of you. You're not exactly lone. It's that kind of gag. So the idea is that George Clooney is a fixer, like a Michael Clayton type, a Ray Donovan type. At the very beginning, the movie literally opens with a New York district attorney, played by Amy Ryan, screaming out in her hotel suite when her young lover in her hotel room is accidentally killed. She then calls a number in her phone that she has, from a friend of a friend for emergencies, like, emergencies that you don't want to wind up in the papers type emergencies. And Clooney answers. He's the fixer, shows up at the hotel, snaps on the latex gloves, whips out the body bag, and gets to work. However, no sooner has he started getting to work than there's a knock at the door, and another fixer turns up that's been sent by the person who owns the hotel. And that fixer is Brad Pitt. And the whole crux of this is there's only meant to be one of these guys. They're meant to be so rare that you can't ever find two of them, let alone in the same room. And they are then forced, over the course of this one night and this one case, to work together and basically rely on each other's skill sets as the whole kit and caboodle starts to unravel and things rapidly start to get worse and worse and worse. Initially because of the discovery of a large amount of drugs on the body, but then the body maybe not quite being as dead as they thought. And I say, it just goes off from there. It's written and directed by John Watts, who I think gave us the Spider-Man trilogy for Marvel Studios, the Tom Holland Spider-Man trilogy, and he's now directing the Fantastic Four movie as well. But of course, it's all about Pitt, Clooney, and them overcoming their differences or similarities. So have a listen to this.
How did you get this number?
I was told that if I ever needed help, to call you.
You're a man who can fix things.
I didn't know people like you really existed.
They don't. There's nobody can do what I do.
Who are you?
I'm here to take care of your problem. Who called you?
We clearly have a situation here. The only course of action is for you to work together to clean up this mess.
No. It's not how I work. This is not how I work.
Even the music is Ocean's 11 and Ocean's 12 and Ocean's 13.
Mm-hmm. Now, that's kind of the genius of it. So they are basically playing themselves, but that's kind of the point. The joke here is that as different as they are very similar, even down to the wardrobe. And it's very, and like that becomes very clear with the wardrobe choice. So, for instance, they've both got the leather jackets and the grey pants and the same exact handgun, and they're both dressed in black. However, Clooney wears a turtleneck. Pitt wears the white, button-down shirt with the zip-up, the black zip-up thing over it, and they kind of the stock outfit. And they are effectively playing themselves, but the gag here seems to be that they are Redford and Newman. They are Sinatra and Martin. They are basically that kind of pairing, and it's very much a celebration of that. Now, it goes without saying that it's slick as hell. It's also funny as hell. And the way the pair play off each other is that kind of dynamic that you really only get if you're starring with your mate and having a good time. Like, I don't think this movie works with any two other actors. And you point out that it even sounds like Ocean's 11. It feels at times like a Steven Soderbergh riff on Hobbs and Shaw, if you can imagine that. You know what I mean? Like the Steven Soderbergh answer to Hobbs and Shaw. And incidentally, I am very firmly on the fence that the Cloontang, as I will forever refer to him, remains one of the top 5 coolest men who has ever lived, and is infinitely cooler than Sinatra ever was. He also continues to be the only man alive who can make a turtleneck look this darn good. It has to be said. It's a bit of a Michael Clayton riff. There's a smidge of Grosse Point Blank in there. There's a dash of Very Bad Things. There's a bit of Butch and Sundance. I mean, particularly as you get to the closing, there's a very heavy-handed nod to Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid right at the end. There's a point at which they use the song. They just drop the song "Smooth Operator." by Sade, and you're like, yeah, that's exactly, lyrically, that might be the best choice you could have made for this. I just had a ball. It took me back to a time not that long ago, we call it the 1990s, aka the good old days, in which this is what movies were like. Like, this is what a studio tentpole was in the 1990s. This is what movie stars did. They didn't star in superhero movies. They starred in movies like this. And this is just a wonderful throwback to that, which makes it even more of a damning indictment that this is being released on Apple TV+. I think it had a preview.
I know, right?
Yeah, it had a preview week, I think, last week, and there was no fanfare for it, no press show, nothing like that. We just got a notification, it's dropped on your Apple TV press portal. I'm like, oh, God, really? Like, a Brad Pitt, George Clooney movie, and you just unceremoniously just ding, just drop it on the platform, just put your login in, it's there. Like, that's the fanfare you're putting on for Pitt and Clooney. Because this was meant to be a very big theatrical thing. They were doing a big theatrical run for this. However, after the double header of Argyle at the start of the year and Fly Me to the Moon towards the end of the summer, Apple TV have rethought their cinematic strategy, and they are very much leaning more towards it. No, you're just going to stream it now. I think Napoleon probably played a hand in that as well. I very much like the physical contrast between the duo. I like the bickering. I like the banter. I like the fact that it's just two badass bros being badasses with wisecracking and gunplay and sarcasm, and it's really fun. And it ends in such a way that I would quite like to see these characters in another adventure together. I mean, don't Hitman's Bodyguard's Wife this. Hitman's Bodyguard's Wife, I can never remember what the term is. Don't come out with a sequel that wrote, but by all means, bring these characters back and make an Ocean-style franchise out of these two. I had a lot of fun with these characters, even though, as you say, they are just Brad Pitt and George Clooney, but, with guns. And, yeah, I really enjoyed it. I'd watch this again. I had a ball.
I think you hit the nail on the head, though, when you said that it's, it's an all-rounder in that sense. And it sounds really good. I think I could probably get over the fact that, from how I started saying it's the same characters as Ocean's 11, because if that's the point of it, then that changes the whole perspective of it for me, and actually I'd probably quite enjoy it. But I am shocked it's on Apple TV and not in the cinema. I mean, I'm assuming that Apple must think they're going to gain more subscribers and make more money that way than they are putting it through the cinema, I guess. But
yeah, I mean, maybe if they didn't give you like 6 months to a year of free Apple TV Plus with every single purchase you make in the Apple Store now, that might actually happen. But every single time I replace my AirPods, and believe me, I go through AirPods like most people go through Skittles. I don't think I've paid for Apple TV Plus ever. I've had Apple TV Plus since it launched, but I buy that many Apple products over the course of the average year that you just wind up with it. You just have Apple. I didn't even need a press account. It's just, I've just got it because I keep buying Apple things, but
Well, you can watch Wolves from now. It's on Apple TV. Today. Join in. From today. Right, still to come then, Hellboy, The Crooked Man, My Old Ass, or Ass, if you want it the proper way. Megalopolis, though, is what we are going to look at next, so stay there. Hello and welcome back to Off Screen. Let's dive straight in with our next movie then. Something that just watching the trailer reminds me of a fever dream. It's Megalopolis. I have nothing more to say other than this is a kind of sci-fi, tragedy, drama. I mean, it's everything. Well, that's what it's listed as. Obviously, you're the one to ask.
I mean, I've not actually tried to describe the plot of this. So, it's set in a sort of near-future New York, in which New York is now called New Rome. And everything is sort of Roman-themed. So, like, you have a billboard for Time magazine, but instead of being called Time, it's called Tempest. Because that would be what Time was in ancient Rome, that kind of thing. We have a central character, Caesar Catalina, played by Adam Driver. He's our lead, effectively. Or kind of our lead. And he is an architect who is tasked with redesigning the city for the future. And he's trying to use a new material called Megalon that is sturdy as anything, but it allows light to pass through it as well, so it can be transparent, but also kind of gold, and it looks a bit electric. He finds himself, however, butting heads with the mayor of New York, Mayor Cicero, played by Giancarlo Esposito, who is probably just better known at this stage as Gus Fring from Breaking Bad, or Moff Gideon, I think, from The Mandalorian. He's Moff Gideon in The Mandalorian. The bad guy in The Mandalorian, anyway. However, into the mix between the two of them comes Mayor Cicero's daughter, played by Nathalie Emmanuel. And I'm trying to remember the name of Nathalie Emmanuel. She's Julia Cicero. So Julia, who is the mayor's daughter, starts out initially as a sort of a go-between between the two disparate factions. Winds up going to work for Caesar Catalina, and then finds herself starting to develop feelings for him and falling for him. In the meanwhile, Caesar Catalina, who, just as a sidebar, also has the ability to control time, this is a very weird movie, has the ability to stop and start time, also has to deal with political upheaval in his own family because his cousin, who's Shia LaBeouf, has aspirations of running for city governor or alderman, and in order to do this, he has to depose their grandfather, played by Jon Voight, who happens to run the biggest bank in New Rome that controls all of Caesar Catalina's finances, and the granddad is also marrying a journalist named Wow Platinum, played by Aubrey Plaza, who also happens to be the occasional lover of Caesar Catalina, and they have a bit of a thing as well. There is also a virginal pop star who seems to be a sort of a Taylor Swift riff. And yeah, you're rubbing your eyes, so I can tell you're already confused by this. And this goes on for 2 hours and 18 minutes, and at one point involves the movie, and I'm not even kidding, having a sequence in which Adam Driver is giving a press conference, like direct to camera, and depending on where you see the movie or how you see the movie, there is no question given to him. A member of staff from the cinema or production company has to come into the screen with a microphone and actually yell the questions at the screen as if they are John Hammond giving the tour in Jurassic Park, where he has to prick his own finger on the screen. Exactly like that. So, it's bonkers, it's nuts. It's written and directed by Francis Ford Coppola, and I've got Folding Money says this is the last movie he's ever going to make. So have a listen.
Our American Republic is not all that different from old Rome. Will we too fall victim, like old Rome, to the insatiable appetite for power of a few men?
To the future of our family. I will build a city that people can dream about.
Megalopolis.
That man is a megalomaniac.
What is it like being rich?
You can scare people. I want it all. You're gonna have to prove yourself.
We are going up and they are going down.
We are taking our city back. Wait.
Firstly, you're definitely going to need an imagination to get your head around this movie. Secondly, the bit that you just said where someone has to talk to the screen and stuff, how's that going to work when you're watching it at home?
Right. There was one press show for this. One. Which should tell you an awful lot about how they want people to see it. It was in the IMAX screen. It was in Cineworld Leicester Square. It was at 9:30 on a Monday morning. And for that sequence, we were told in advance that was not happening. What they do instead for those screenings is the questions are simply asked from off-screen. It's in the movie itself. They've just simply added an audio track that just inserts it as audio from off-screen. So you still hear the question. Now,
okay.
I would charitably describe this as Southland Tales for Guardian readers. And if you get that reference, do you know what? You might actually enjoy this film. To be fair, if you've managed to stomach Southland Tales at any point in your life, you'll actually have an easier time with this. This is not as bad as Southland Tales. It's a little bit more ponderous, but it's weird. It's so weird. It is. I described it as knucking futs, I think was the term I used for this. It is the kind of movie you only make if you have no intention whatsoever of ever making another movie, it feeds wholeheartedly into Francis Ford Coppola's ongoing, and I mean decades-long, self-mythologizing of himself as a man standing on the precipice of the future of cinema, if only people would bloody well listen to him. And he has done that countless times as the subtext of so many of his movies. It would be nice if he just found another subtext just once. Because this plays even more on the nose than Tucker, the Man and His Dream from the 80s with Jeff Bridges, which was literally about the same thing. Right. Coppola himself had said, and it's worth noting that Coppola had to bankroll this. It cost $120 million, and for $120 million, it looks fantastic. Like, I've seen movies that cost twice this that don't look half as good. It looks good. You got to give it that. However, he did sell his beloved vineyard to pay for this, though. So the Coppola wine label, I'm sure it's still ongoing, but it's not owned by him anymore, and that's a darn shame, because I really wanted to join the Coppola Wine Club. It's a subscription thing. You can get Coppola wines, and yeah, anyway. So... Coppola had said in interviews that he was determined, given the subject matter of the movie, that he was going to embrace people who had been victims of cancel culture, people who had been stricken off by the industry. So when I read you the full cast list, see if any names leap out at you. I mean, I've already said one or two. This is a list, a choice picking of some of the names, some of the 99 names listed on IMDb for Megalopolis. Adam Driver, Giancarlo Esposito, Natalie Emmanuel, Aubrey Plaza, Shia LaBeouf, John Voight, Lawrence Fishburne, Talia Shire, Jason Schwartzman, Catherine Hunter, Chloe Fineman, James Remar, Balthazar Getty, and Dustin bloody Hoffman. Yeah, what? There's some very problematic names in that stack. There are some names on that list. It's like, wait, these people found work again? Dustin Hoffman? Shia LaBeouf? These people found, like, John Voight? Someone let John Voight be in a film? And they are all playing to type. Like, they really are playing. I mean, James Remar is in this. James Remar, who famously had the Hicks role in Aliens and had to be fired because he got caught at the airport with half a kilo of blow in his bag. You know what I mean? Like, this is the cast list we're working with. I say, he does not give a F about making a movie ever again, and it's very transparent. Having said that, if you're going to go out in style, and I have to give it to Coppola. I think he has. If you're going to go out, this is the movie you go out on, and fair play to him. It's deranged. It's nonsensical at times. Like I say, Southland Tales for Guardian readers. But here's the thing I have to point out. I mean, it's a really good role for Natalie Emmanuel. And if you're keeping score on this one, because most people now hear the name Natalie Emmanuel and they think one of two things. They either think, oh, it's Miss Andre from Game of Thrones. I think it's Miss Andre in Game of Thrones. Or, oh, it's Ramsey from the Fast and Furious series. Me, I'm sat there watching it thinking, Sasha Valentine from Hollyoaks is the lead in a Coppola movie. That's a world I live in now. Sasha Valentine from Hollyoaks is the lead of a 2.5-hour Francis Ford Coppola that probably is going to mark the end of his career. Yeah. Okay. If you can see it, go on.
I was going to say it's a shame because with a name like Megalopolis, you just, in my head, I picture this great big blockbuster as big as Lord of the Rings, like an immense, absolute carnage on screen with beautiful. I mean, it does look very beautiful. You're right, but it's a shame that the storyline is so messed up and complicated and weird and bizarre.
I don't know if I'd ever watch it again. I don't think I would ever watch it again, to be really honest. And I obviously, 9:30 Monday morning, I was stone cold sober when I watched this, and believe me, I wished I wasn't. It really felt like a movie. And to be fair, that's true of several Coppola movies. You think about Apocalypse Now, for instance. Apocalypse Now plays like a religious experience if you are under the influence of something. I feel like the same may be true of Megalopolis. I think Megalopolis may follow in the footsteps of Apocalypse Now as being a Coppola movie that you really should be on something, or at the very least drunk when you see it. Beyond that, I don't think I could in good conscience recommend it to anyone. However, if you're a Coppola completist, which I am, you're kind of obligated to see it. I mean, it's an absolute shambles. It really is. But it's a gorgeous shambles, and it's very much a vision. It is definitely a vision. You have to give it that. And also, you know what? I'll be really honest, for me personally, there is a seduction scene led by Aubrey Plaza that did make the movie worth it for me in that way. Because it's wormed its way into my long-term memory very quickly. I'll be treasuring that sequence forever. It's just a shame that the other actor in the scene is who it is. But, yeah. Other than that, it's a film that exists. It has a beginning, middle, and end. And it probably is the end of Francis Ford Coppola. So, you know what, Frankie? You didn't compromise. You gave us exactly what you said. This took 40 years. It wasn't necessarily worth it. But at least he went out on his own terms.
Well, if you want to go and see a movie and wish you were drunk, and the irony there is he sold his vineyards to make it. Yeah, and the irony there, he sold his vineyards to be able to make it. You can go and watch Megalopolis out in cinemas from today. Right, next, Hellboy, The Crooked Man, and My Old Ass. So, hello and welcome back for one last ride off screen. We are looking at My Old Ass. Sorry, I just can't. It's such a weird title for a movie, honestly. Like to keep saying that. It makes
sense. I promise it makes sense.
Okay, well, it's a comedy, obviously, with a name like that. Lead us in then, Van.
Well, that's the thing, actually, it's not that much of a comedy. I thought it was, and you would assume based on the poster and the sort of marketing and optics they put out there, it is more of a teen drama than anything else. So, it is a movie about a young woman named Elliot. Elliot is about to sort of go off to college. I've not opened the link, hang on. Elliot is about to go off to college, and one night, whilst doing shrooms with her friends, as going away, while doing shrooms with her friends, she hallucinates, or seemingly hallucinates, an older version of herself. Herself at age 40. I think she's literally, she's 39 or 40. I think she's 39. She's 39, as we're specific. Something comes up in the clip. Now, Maisie Stella plays the younger incarnation of Elliot. Aubrey Plaza plays the older incarnation of Elliot. Now, the two meet. Aubrey Plaza's older incarnation gives some fleeting advice because she doesn't know how the causality of all this works. Is it time travel? Is it a hallucination? What? But she doesn't want to give her anything that could potentially change the future because she doesn't know how that works. Will it make the universe explode? Something like that. She simply tells her, just do yourself a favor and stay away from a guy named Chad. You know, just stay away from a guy. If you ever meet a guy named Chad, just avoid that. And when Aubrey Plaza has, vanished back into the abyss, the younger incarnation of Elliot soon discovers that actually, because she has her phone number, which she has put in her phone as My Old Ass, she can actually trade texts and voice calls with her older self. So she can continue to check in. However, when the older one doesn't answer the phone for like 4 days, the younger one, coincidentally at this exact time, meets a guy named Chad and finds herself begrudgingly, against her wishes, actually starting to be charmed by it, starting to fall for it. And this, of course, is kind of a big no-no, as we're told when the older incarnation swiftly appears and explains why. But I'm not going to spoil that for you. Have a listen. This is the pair meeting for the first time.
Dude, I'm you. You're me.
What's up?
I don't have bangs. I have no plan.
Left boob, 1 cup smaller than the right. And no, it never catches up to the right, but honestly, you get used to it and it's okay. Guys can't really tell. Girls can, but... Okay, more. Okay. Ta-da! It's our missing pinky toe. Oh, that has not happened yet. Actually, I kind of miss my toe. Can I see it?
So, I mean, do you think that this has been made to kind of, I don't know, just to show what it's like to be in that situation and to be growing up with all of that kind of going on? Is that the... I mean, I can't quite get my angle on this.
To be honest with you, I mean, I've seen the film, and I really couldn't tell you what the kind of point of it is. I mean, it's only 88 minutes long. It's not really a whopper for runtime, and it's a streaming film, so I'd argue that the ambition really isn't that high with it. The Aubrey Plaza of it all, and this one irked me somewhat rotten, Aubrey Plaza kind of gets relegated to more or less entirely off-screen after that scene. She appears once more in the film towards the end, obviously, to explain, here's why I said that. There is, however, a very realistic take in the brief time you do get with Aubrey Plaza on. There's a very realistic take on pushing 40. Like, don't have my dream job. I'm pushing 40. You know, like, no one has their dream job at this age. You know, I'm still too young, I'm a baby. And, right. So, first of all, the concept here, which could have been The Lake House with Keanu and Sandra Bullock, could have been The Lake House as a sort of teen dramedy. It never quite gets there. It kind of falls back on being a pretty generic teen drama. Like, it feels a bit One Tree Hill throughout. Maisie Steller is not a particularly engaging lead, that has to be said, and it's notable that the film livens up rather significantly in the two only scenes that Aubrey Plaza appears in, or when you briefly hear her voice here and there. I did incidentally have to check Aubrey Plaza's age. I'm like, really? Aubrey Plaza is a 39-year-old? That doesn't seem believable. I checked. Aubrey Plaza is 40. Seems unbelievable. She's 40.
Wow.
So, yeah, I know. But there's stuff about it that quirkily amused me. Elliot's younger brother being obsessed with Saoirse Ronan, like literally covering his room, the walls of his room in pictures of Saoirse Ronan. I thought was a neat touch, because I'd really never thought of Saoirse Ronan as a pin-up. Really, just had never occurred to me, because Saoirse Ronan is a dramatic actress that we've literally had on screen since she was a literal child. So she's kind of grown up and bypassed the sex symbol status for most adults. But it's the boilerplate nature of it that just never really comes together. Like I say, it kind of belongs on streaming, but to be honest with you, I'd rather watch The Lake House again, which is an outright romance with Keanu and Sandra Bullock. However, and like I say, it's kind of confused about what it wants to be. There is sort of a point that they try to make here and there about Elliot's LGBT status, but it doesn't quite work as well as they seem to think it does, and it really feels kind of tacked on as a sort of third or fourth draft kind of maneuver. But it is, as I say, written and directed by Megan Park. I would argue it definitely needs another draft at the scripting stage.
Well, if you would like to see my old ass, you can, because it's on Prime Video from today. I haven't been paid for this. What's going on? All right, our final movie of the week, Hellboy, The Crooked Man. I have high hopes for this, so talk us through it, Van.
I would adjust those expectations immediately. Right, so Hellboy, The Crooked Man, fourth live-action Hellboy movie. If you include the animated ones, this makes it the sixth Hellboy movie, and discounting those animated ones, sticking entirely with the live-action ones, this is the second reboot and third Hellboy. So, Jack Casey, the relative unknown, I think mostly known for playing Black Tom in Deadpool 2, which is not really a character one terrifically remembers, is the new Hellboy. This is directed by Brian Taylor, as in Neville Dean and Taylor, who made the Crank movies and Ghost Rider 2, so there's some cinematic pedigree for you, is the director here. Taylor has co-written the script with Christopher Golden, and Mike Mignola, who actually wrote the comics. As a result, this purports to go more towards the roots of the comics, which is more of a folk horror type thing. I say this as someone who both enjoys the Hellboy comics and also thinks that Guillermo del Toro made the right decision in making his movies the way he did, which was, you know what, let's take this out of the realm of that and actually do something grander with Hellboy. I'm not burying the lead, I'm saying this up front. I am very firmly on the Del Toro did this right, sod everything else train. This is set in the 1950s in the Appalachian territories. It stars Casey as Hellboy, who is on a train transporting a spider, a supernatural demonic spider they've got in a crate, from point A to point B presumably being the BPRD, the Bureau for Paranormal Research and Defense, at which he lives and works. Their train is derailed when the spider escapes, and as they wander through the woods, they find themselves drawn into, he and his fellow agent, a scientist who works for the BPRD, who's played by Adeline Rudolph, who is Bobby Joe Song, who is actually a character from the comics. They find themselves drawn into this case of the Crooked Man, a malevolent entity who lives in the Appalachian woods. And they go off on this stripped-down fairy tale adventure. Have a listen. I'm just going to tell you in advance the clip. I'm sorry. This film is not very good. Here's a clip.
Something in these hills.
Something haunted. Evil. It smells like death.
How do you know that?
Dark things called dark things.
I heard tales about him all my life. Most just called him the Crooked Man.
I mean, it sounds all right, but with a franchise like this, you would expect it to be incredible.
Well, let's not paint the Hellboy franchise any golder than it really deserves, because right, it should be theoretically impossible to make a Hellboy movie worse than the 2019 one, the David Harbour reboot that Neil Marshall directed. And obviously, we recently discussed my opinion of Neil Marshall, and you know I'm a fan. You know I'll go to bat for Neil Marshall every time. But let's just say we didn't bring Hellboy up when I interviewed him recently for a very specific reason. It was ass. It really was. This somehow achieves what should be impossible in being worse. A worse Hellboy movie than the last one. Jack Kesey, as Hellboy, I mean, he has literally no charisma. No charisma whatsoever. For all of his appeal or effectiveness as a character, they may as well just cast Paul O'Grady. In terms of absolutely useless, feckless people they could have stuffed in the role. And I mean, it's never looked cheaper. It really looks like episode 4 of a streaming series made for a streaming platform nobody subscribes to. You know what I mean? It looks like that. Directorially,
I was going to say his costume looks plastic. I agree with that completely.
It does. Terrible CGI, really uninvolving, really forgettable. I have actually shown this to a couple of friends and asked, I need a second opinion. Can you sit in my living room, watch this, and tell me what you think? And they did. And the results really paint me out to actually be on the money with this one. Good God, the idea that this is being put into cinemas and Wolves is on streaming kind of tells you exactly what a backwards universe we live in right now. Absolute dross. Petrol station bargain bin bilge to the nth degree. And believe me, this belongs alongside the Dominic Cooper, Samuel L. Jackson starring thrillers that you usually find in that bargain bin in the Morrison's petrol station. Just to tell you where I fuel up, kind of thing. Yeah, very much there. Please, good God, make no more of this. This was intended as the start of a new series of films. Please don't. Just please don't. If this is what you think of this character and this brand. And I say that knowing full well that this arguably skews closer to the comics than any of the other movies did. But, yeah. Sometimes comic accuracy ain't the best move.
Well, if you want to see Hellboy, the Crooked Man, you can, because it's in cinemas from today. All right, let's quickly look at what we've got coming up next week. Let's hope there's some decent ones.
Yeah, next week we've got a sci-fi horror thriller called Things Will Be Different to talk about. We've got a horror thriller with the brilliant title Die Before You Die to talk about. The first of 2 Sebastian Stan movies that we will be talking about in October arrives next week. I have seen the second one, which is, of course, the Donald Trump movie. That arrives on, I think, the 18th. That's the second Sebastian Stan movie, The Apprentice. The first one, though, is A Different Man. That's next week, so we'll be able to talk about that next week. And, God help us, I don't know what I'm walking into with this one. Joker Folie à Deux is next week. And I will say my partner is really excited about seeing this. We're going to the big evening event screening on Wednesday next week. And she is way more excited than I am.
You dressing up as the Joker?
No, I wouldn't put that much effort in, to be honest. I know. I don't like indulging Batman fandom as a rule. It's like indulging Harry Potter fandom or Star Wars fandom. I don't generally like any kind of association with that fandom because of basically just how they behave, to be really honest. And I don't think the Joker movie really helps that, if I'm honest. And I'm saying that despite the fact that the Penguin series is out now, and based on the first episode, is terrific. I saw the first episode of Penguin. Did you see the Penguin with Colin Farrell?
No, I haven't.
Have you seen The Batman? The 4-hour-long David Fincher knockoff? Yeah. That one. If you've seen that, watch Penguin, which literally takes place after that movie and tells you what happened in Gotham with all the mafia families after and how Penguin tried to usurp them and become the criminal king of Gotham. It's really good. It's better than it has any right to be, and it's way, way better than The Batman. So, But yeah, so enjoy that when you see it. But yeah, we'll talk about Joker 2, the musical, with Lady Gaga next week.
Looking forward to it, sort of. But that is, of course, all we have time for this time round. We will return next week, as usual. Until then, I've been Adam Ball.
I've been Van Connor, and we will be back.